Praise be Jesus and Mary. Today we get to know a special guest and conference speaker, learning how she became Catholic, became devoted to Our Lady of Fatima, and has rendered the Church a great service through her investigative journalism. This is Fatima Today, our weekly show where we look at events in history, current events, and even our own lives through the light of Fatima. Monique is currently on the ultimate Marian pilgrimage, actually visiting the Shrine of Fatima in Portugal with some of the other pilgrims. So today I am joined by a special guest, Dr. Maike Hickson. Herzlichen Willkommen, Maike. It is an honor and joy to have you here on Fatima Today.
Thank you very much. Dankeschön.
Jawohl. So, as you might just have been able to tell, Dr. Maike is German, but we'll go into all of that in just a second. The reason we have her here is because she's going to be one of the speakers at the Fatima Conference in May 17th and 18th. Hopefully your calendar is marked. It'll be held in the Cincinnati area. And the theme of the conference is Fatima, Faith, Fidelity, and Your Future. I think Maike's topic will be of great interest to her, especially given her insights. I'll just tell you the title. It's Fatima, Rome, Moscow. She will reveal the rest at the conference, not in this interview. But many of you might recognize her name because she really has done some groundbreaking investigative research, journalism. Her articles appear in places like Catholic Family News, LifeSite News, 1 Peter 5, Raticelli, Christian Order, and of course some others in Germany and in Europe. So, Maike, I think I and everyone here on our audience would like to get to know you a little better, especially in preparation for the conference. Would you please tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe where you were born, where you grew up?
Thank you for having me, David. I'm born in Hanover in Germany, and it's in northern Germany, and an hour and a half from Hamburg down south. So it's northern Protestant country. I was not raised Catholic and converted only in my 30s. Was literally more or less raised agnostic. I mean, I was baptized, but that's about it. And I studied French and history at the University of Hanover, went to Switzerland, lived there a few years to write my dissertation on intellectual history among Swiss authors. And in 2007, I married an American, Dr. Robert Hickson, moved to the United States, and ever since then, am blessed to live in America.
Well, there's a lot there. So then, were you, by any chance, when you say you were baptized, was that Lutheran? Because I know the Lutherans are strong in northern Germany.
Yeah,
okay.
And it happened to be a Marian church that I was baptized in, thanks be to God. It's Mary's, St. Mary's.
Yeah. So then if we could ask if there's any details you could share, that part certainly piques my interest that you said you didn't convert till you were around maybe 30, I think you said. So what led to that conversion? How did you come to embrace the Catholic faith?
It was my husband. I'm sorry I have to say it. My husband was military, and he has these funny sayings, but one of them was, everything I am and everything I hope to be, I owe to my squad leader. It's a military expression. And I would say everything I am and everything I hope to be, I owe to my husband.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. So he's been just my greatest blessing in my life. As some of you know, perhaps he passed in September of 2023. Had a very holy death. But of course, having lost him, it gives you an occasion to look back on our life together, and just the amazing blessing he has been, just bringing me into the faith, but also bringing me right into the right faith. I never went to any loop into the Novus Ordo. I literally only knew the traditional Mass from the beginning. And we have 2 children, and we homeschooled them. And so we had many years of discussions he was retired, early retirement, because he taught at the Special Operations University in Florida at the time, 2003, and retired from there out of protest against the war in Iraq.
Oh,
He
wow.
said he did not want to have that war on his conscience. And he talked to people in power at the time and opposed it. And when he saw it's coming, he left. And so he homeschooled our children. We homeschooled them together, and we spent 24 hours a day together and had a lot of time to discuss the faith and the world. And also, just saying, when you mentioned that I'm a journalist, it wouldn't have been without Robert. The first articles I wrote was for the Wanderer, and he knew Paul Acutis, so he opened the door there. Or the St. Benedict Center, Brother Andre Marie, he was friends with. I wrote a little article there once, and he just, and then all my articles, I'm not a native speaker. He proofread everything I did. I mean, I had the translation from German, and at the time it was important. We didn't have all these great translation machines, but Robert read every single line and read them even when they were published again, and made sure it was all fine. And so
Well,
that's,
thank you for that witness, especially in defending the sacrament of marriage, because so often,
yeah,
as we know today, marriage and family are greatly under attack, as Sister
yeah,
Lucia, forewarned us. So then you had mentioned that you came to the United States. Was that because of your husband, Robert, or where did you meet him, or how
yeah,
does that all
yeah,
figure in the
yeah, yeah.
timeline?
Yeah, I never planned to move to America, even though I have relatives who did so, my aunt and my great uncle. And but I was never on my screen until I met my husband. Yeah, so he brought me here,
So
and
how is it that the two of you met, if I may
we were
ask?
at a conference in Austria. He gave a talk, and I helped translate talks from French into German, or just interpreter. And yeah, you meet at a conference and start to talk, and yeah,
And the rest, as they say, is history.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so then we now know how you met your husband, how you came to the States, and how you became Catholic. But what about Fatima and Our Lady of Fatima? Where in this timeline, or how are you learning about the message of Our Lady of Fatima? Because, for everyone, it's a little bit
It's
different, but I
different. Yeah,
know you have a
yeah,
devotion to her.
yeah. Well, I would say also the first introduction was from my husband, and actually the year we got married, Robert went to Brazil to a Fatima conference organized by Father Gruner at the time. When you look back on the internet, I'm sure you could still find. I think he talked on the Christian soldier and spiritual childhood, as I recall. And so, yeah, I mean, from the beginning, I knew about Fatima, but when I had my conversion, or my official rite, it was Father Gregory Hesse who brought me into the church. And in discussions with him, I still, having been raised agnostic, I don't know how cradle Catholics can sympathize with that or understand it, but for me, when I got to know the Catholic faith, I loved everything about it. I love the Gregorian chant was very important for me at the beginning. Just the beauty, something stirred in me, and so the Mass was at the center. But then also the church's moral teaching on the family, because a lot of us in Germany come out of broken families. And so the truth of that teaching on the family rang as true. But for me, the struggle was, is there a God? That's the big question. It all sounds nice and true. Is there a God? And so I talked with Father Hesse about that one time in Vienna in his apartment when we visited. And it was a very touching moment when he was doing the dishes. He was a very good cook. And I stood in the door frame and just chatting with him. And then he said that everybody might have at some point, a question or a little doubt, and then you just need to think about Fatima.
Mm.
And then he told me the story. He especially stressed the aspect of just the rain having come down. Everything was muddy and wet, and the people were wet. And when the miracle of the sun happened, afterwards everything was dry. And he talked about the spinning sun. And the second example was the miracle of Lanciano in Italy, where there was a priest who doubted the real presence, and in the 800s, as I recall. And during Mass, the host turned into flesh, and the wine into blood, true blood, and it's still preserved. And I later went to visit, and I still remember in that conversation in that door frame. Suddenly, it was that moment of grace. It really was. Thanks be to God. I pray for Father Hesse every day. He died in 2000. I forgot 6 or something, but he was certainly a very great channel of faith, channel of grace for me, and it was connected to Fatima.
Yes, I never got to meet Father Hesse, but I did hear a number of his talks and watched videos by him, and so
Yeah.
in some ways he helped me learn and deepen my faith. So we certainly all have a deep gratitude. I
Oh
knew a
yeah.
good friend of his who now has also passed away during COVID, Monsignor Perez, who was out in the Los Angeles area, and he and Father Hesse were friends. So I did
Oh
get a few stories, sort of personal stories
yeah.
through
Yeah.
Monsignor Perez,
Yeah.
Patrick
He
Perez.
was unique. He
He
was
was
quite a character.
very unique. I think
Yeah.
he's in some of our Fatima Center videos as well. If people watch the documentaries, the stories about Fatima, he is one of those who is being interviewed. So you would get to see who Maike is speaking about here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
He was very early, traditional, suffered a lot for the faith. Worked at the end with the Society of St. Pius X. But I just, all these talks, he spoke all the homilies of Archbishop Lefebvre into German onto CD. He had a beautiful voice, but yeah, just very learned,
yeah,
several degrees, and just
very
gave
intelligent.
everything for the truth. Yeah.
Yeah,
May he rest in peace.
and I mean the as you were talking, I thought to myself, interesting. She says she's kind of growing up as an atheist, so she doesn't believe in God. And yet, one of the things that really kind of brought her in is this moment when Father Hesse is
Yeah.
talking to you about the
Yeah.
miracle of the sun.
Yeah. Yeah.
It it would strike me, maybe the Lanciano part plays more, but it would strike me that most people who are atheist and are doubting God would sort of poo-poo the miracle of Fatima. I mean, so many Catholics and quote unquote believers, you try to tell them about Fatima, and more than
Yeah.
70,000 people and the testimony, etc. And they just sort of, I don't know, it doesn't seem to make too much of an impact on their mind as I think it should. Why do you think it was maybe different for you?
Um, that's a good question. I don't know why. It's of course grace. There's no reason why it would strike me more than others. But I mean, I always try to understand, and I'm always looking for truth. And if you have articles written at the time and published, or there's this booklet collecting all the eyewitnesses of that time, so there you have I'm a historian, you have historical evidence of that moment that proved the point. It's not a fairy tale. For me at the beginning, I really needed proof, so there's actually a book written, I forgot the title, but of a lawyer who methodologically went through these great, Our Lady of Guadalupe, Fatima, and just laid it scientifically down. These are the proofs that God exists. And that's the type of modern mind I was that needed factual proof. Of course, if you're not open to grace, and that's one of the things my husband told me early on, because I was struggling. I wanted to believe, but that's a gift. And he said, just pray, dear God, if you're out there, show me the truth. And
Mm.
I did say that prayer, and so what's the argument against the sun spinning and seen by 70,000 people? I mean, how do you want to argue against a fact, And it was
Yeah.
announced, and that's why the people were there. They knew something was going to happen. So, but yeah.
Yeah. I think I can really appreciate that because I certainly have a great love for history myself. And I like
Mhm.
reading and studying history a lot. And I think that's one of maybe our deficiencies in that often, reason would tell us that we expect other human beings to tell us the truth. And as you have more and more witnesses and testimonies,
Yeah.
then the strength of the truth, grows. And
Yeah.
history is wonderful in that. And perhaps people don't understand that as much these days. But
Yeah.
if I may just again, I said I wouldn't do it, but I'm going to give people a little sneak preview in that I think Dr. Hickson in Cincinnati will talk to us more about some of these different sort of, maybe you could say, historical proofs for certainly God, but
Yeah.
specifically Our Lady of Fatima. So,
Mhm.
but
Thank you.
well, we won't, we need not speak too much more about that because we want to keep the interest high there. What I do want to know, if possible, is a little bit more about maybe some of what you consider your most important or earth shattering, let's say, interviews, articles you've written. If I may, I'd start you out with one because I don't think I had ever heard of your name before. For a while when I read some of the things, I wasn't even sure, not knowing the German language well enough, if you were a man or a woman. I saw Mike,
I
and I didn't
know.
know if that was a
I know.
variation of Michael or what.
I
But
know. I know.
it was, and certainly the Fatima Center has covered this a lot, and it was something that Father Dullinger, who
Mhm.
knew then Cardinal Josef Ratzinger, sort of came out, and I believe you were one of the first to sort of pick up on this or report on it. If you don't mind telling us a little bit just about
Sure.
that, and then even how you knew. I guess it's the German connection, how you would know someone like Father Dullinger, who he was. Some of our audience may not know him.
Yeah. So again, since we received, Father Gruner's Fatima Crusader, and I read the text by Father Kramer on his meeting Dr. Dollinger in Brazil, as I recall. He visited him there at the seminary and talked with, and Dr. Dollinger told him the story that he had challenged Cardinal Ratzinger at the time after the official publication of the Third Secret of Fatima, because he had had previous conversations with Cardinal Ratzinger that indicated that what it contained, there was some talk about warnings to, have a council, warnings not to alter the mass or have a new mass, some things like this that he had heard from Ratzinger. That's how he reported it to Kramer at the time. And that when the Third Secret was published and it wasn't in there, he went after Cardinal Ratzinger celebrated Mass. He went to the sacristy, Dr. Dollinger, and said, that can't be it. And Ratzinger purportedly just took off and said, kind of, there's on the way out, there's more. We didn't publish the whole thing, or there's something left. The exact words. But that's the message. And so I knew that I think it was a couple of years, honestly. I tried to get through to Dr. Dollinger just because I have a relative who knew him very well. And I knew already that Dr. Dollinger had a very deep faith and was touching my relative very much in his faith. And so, yeah, there was this connection. And also, as we know, Bishop Schneider had him as his teacher. He went to that seminary and in Brazil and knew him for years and cherished him very much. So much he visited him on his deathbed or dying bed. And so it happened in 2016 that sometimes you think you are inspired. I never would say that, but it was Pentecost Sunday, and I just thought, well, let me try this telephone number and just call him up. And I haven't spoken at that time yet with Dr. Dollinger. And so I just called him up, and yeah, he
Wow.
talked to me and confirmed it. So I have nothing original. It's Father Kramer who did the groundwork. I just picked it up and just talked to him. And I guess since I had another platform, 1 Peter 5 at the time when I published it, that he confirmed. Essentially, it was just a confirmation. He didn't give me any new information that wasn't already out there, but he confirmed it. And 1 Peter 5 at that time was just a spearhead of a lot of stories. Just, I think at that time, the landscape was such that a lot of Catholic outlets were still not sure how to report on Pope Francis. And there weren't too many outlets to go to at that point for news that don't try to sugarcoat the situation, but just plainly report. And a lot of German angles in that at the time. Cardinal Kasper, Cardinal whatever, Pope Benedict, of course, and then Cardinal Müller, the opposition, Brandmüller. There were just so many, the German Bishops' Conference, so many German angles that people, sometimes went to 1 Peter 5. So when we published it, it went, pretty quickly, was spread so much that I think in a day, Pope Benedict came out of retirement, I think for the first time, and had a statement. It was more indirect. It was kind of a little strange the way it was worded, but kind of saying that he has never spoken with Dr. Dollinger about Fatima, and so that the story is untrue.
Huh. That seems very strange then. Interesting. I
Yeah,
wonder if it
and
really was from I wonder if it really was from Pope Benedict Cardinal Ratzinger himself.
I
Pope,
have later, I do have from other sources, it seems that it was from him.
hmm.
And I later published a letter that I had later written to him. I wouldn't accuse him of lying. This is none of, um, people have their different, what is the third secret? They might have had some mental reservation. They might have had some influencers, some counselors. It's just so complex that I
It
wrote to
is.
Pope and said, I'm just, is there something else in the letters of Sister Lucy that would help our situation in the church now? It's for me, that's not the point. The point is, what did Our Lady tell Sister Lucy that we should know about? And till today, I still try digging, and try to contact people I think they would know, because it's just Our Lady's voice that counts. And but de facto, I went back to Dr. Dollinger, telling him, I called him up again, that he Pope Benedict denied it, and Dr. Dollinger stood by his story. And so I do know also from the secretary of his secretary that I spoke with, and with other sources, that he has been consistent with the story from day one. I mean, he called his secretary the day he spoke with Ratzinger and related it to her. So, yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
no, I think you make a very good point about just our minds definitely play tricks. I was very young. I was in high school when I realized that because I had been riding with a friend in a car and she was driving and we had a small accident because we were not paying attention. We were singing songs, singing music.
mhm,
And later on, we got back to the school because it was during lunchtime that this happened. And later on, I found out that she was telling everyone that the brakes on the car had locked.
oh,
And I confronted her several days later, and I told her, "Well, why are you saying this? I mean, we were negligent. It was our fault. I
yeah,
mean, she didn't want to get in trouble with her dad." And from the way she responded to me, I realized she had convinced herself of that. That she
oh,
had
yeah,
convinced herself that the brakes
yeah,
had locked, and this was the truth. And that always made an impression on me as a young man because I thought, our mind can really alter
yeah,
truth, alter our
yeah,
memories, and that plays a role because I really couldn't say at that point she was lying. She
yeah,
was convinced that this is how that accident went out, and I was convinced it was different. Who's to? I mean, possibly I was wrong. I seriously doubt it, but it is interesting how
yeah.
things. Yeah,
Yeah, so I guess the truth will. I trust the truth will come out one day. We know the third secret in its fullness will be published at some point, and then we will see, who was proven right. But even then, we still can't fully judge Pope Benedict.
certainly. Right.
What his motives, what his understanding. Yeah, it's just I
Yeah.
pray for him
Best.
every day, and Dr. Dollinger has passed, so just praying for them, and hopefully the role of this was just to bring this story back to life, to make people aware. At that time, many haven't heard from about this discussion, and so hopefully, I pray that it was helpful.
Yeah, and on that note, I hope people understand. I think this is just interesting because right now, supposedly, we'll see many documents that have been somewhat hidden in the United States. CIA
Mhm.
operations and things of this, dealing with the JFK assassination and other things like that. That's been big in the news. Supposedly, they're all being released, or many of these are being released.
Yeah,
And I just find it interesting because for those who are not aware, the vast majority of research and documentation that was done with regard to Fatima and Sister Lucia and her testimony, filling many volumes. So there was a priest who was assigned to spend like 30 years of his life. Father Joaquin Alonso became the Fatima archivist and has 14, I think, maybe 16. It's somewhere around there, thick volumes of
yeah,
all the interviews and research. Very little of that has come to light very little, maybe just some parts, like two
Oh,
books, and some of it's redacted. And all of these things are still sort of kept under lock and key, in the lock and key under the big sort of secret vault that
yeah.
I believe is there at Fatima. I think they're still at Fatima and not in Rome, but we're not allowed to read them. And so, as you said, there
Mhm.
could be a lot more material that in the future would
Mhm.
come to light, and then we would have these historical records, firsthand research on
Yeah.
this, and learn much more. But until then, as you said, we'll trust Our Lady. Um, as our time comes to a close, I just would like to ask you if there's other articles that maybe are your favorite, things you wrote on, things you researched, or you think are of great importance to share with the audience.
Well, you know, I when I look back, I mean, I'm not writing right now so much anymore, but I always consider myself just more as a messenger. I don't bring much original thought on my side. It's just I was interviewing great minds, so I was translating someone else's thought and to bring it to the American public. So I've been more like a donkey carrying things from one side to another, or just I consider it as an apostolate, as a I want to help, So if someone contacts me, I'm happy to help publish the statement. Or it's been a great pleasure over the years working with all these scholars who have made multiple statements against the errors of Pope Francis. I always felt honored to be able to be in contact with these people and help. Um, I mean, just for the fun of it, of course, when Amoris Laetitia came out, um, I received the document ahead of time, and I didn't ask for it, but popped up, and that I would say was one of the most exciting time of my journalistic work. Just to, wow, I mean, we've been working against that for years with the family synods, and here it was. And at the time, working for 1 Peter 5, but also Lifeside News, always in collaboration. So that was just a fun story, I mean, but it's changed so much, the situation now. Um, I think at the time I tried to to open people's eyes. That was that people get over the hump, and 1 Peter 5 was very helpful there because it reached non-traditional circles. And to try to reach those Catholics whose habit was to obey the Pope, whatever the Pope says is right, and to get them understand that there can be a situation where you just can't do it, and don't close your eyes, but really look at it, and this is really problematic, what's going on in Rome, and to help try to push back. But at this point I feel like, well, if people don't see that Pope Francis' papacy has been a problem, I mean, I just don't feel like repeating all the terrible things again. It's
Yeah,
just
of
kind of, I
course.
feel it's been mission accomplished as far as my energy. And so yeah, prayer. I think I've come, Frère Michel de la Trinité, he wrote the book and then became a Carthusian monk. He wrote on Fatima his
Mhm.
volumes and then he disappeared. I don't plan to do that, but I feel definitely I haven't written anything like him, nothing. I cannot compare. I couldn't do, yeah, any, but as regard to activity, just at this point, I feel that prayer, to keep our soul prepared, keep close to the sacraments. I mean, this activism can become a danger. Um, we've seen some of the figures, so yeah. And my husband is gone, so I don't have, I always stood on his shoulders. So we will see. But definitely, yeah, pray to Our Lady of Fatima and try to do good works and help acts of charity, and hoping that she will have mercy on us
Well,
soon.
thank you. Thank you, Maike. Yes, could not be better said. We look forward to seeing you in the conference. Look forward
Thank
to
you
your
so
talk.
much. Thank you.
This does wrap up our edition of Fatima Today. Please don't forget to like, share the show, subscribe to the channel, and thank you, Maike.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, David, so much.
It was an honor, pleasure to get to know you a little bit better. We will see all of you next week. And remember, Our Lady of Fatima Give us the only solution for these times. May God bless and reward you.
Our Lady of Fatima, pray for us.